extremely fast, that these things are now here. Sometimes we have solutions for it, sometimes we don't have it. We need to give the young people new skills. For example, you still will sell products, but you probably soon will sell them on a video conference, or you will sell it by an online chat, but you don't sell it anymore in a shop. So I think some traditional jobs, which at the moment have it quite difficult to find people, will have completely new opportunities. I give you a simple example. If you're not an extroverted person, you normally don't go in a sales job. But if you're a person who can write very fast and you have this distance somehow in between the screen and the other person is in front of me, gives an opportunity to people to work in this job. I mean, even people which may be sitting normally in a wheelchair, then they can do this job which they never had the chance before. I think it's a big chance we have. Young people have new values. Young people saw now that this is possible, what they demand from us. It's possible to work at home. It's possible to work 6 hours and do 2 hours of website job for probably my own business, for the business of our colleague. Yeah, this is things which we see already longer, which starts now even to get faster. And I think this is the big challenge of companies. I think it's more not the challenge that you have to find people, it's the challenge that the company has to agree that this person don't works 100% for me. Sometimes you will even have completely strange things that a person works for you and your concurrents. And if we don't open the minds there, because these young people want to work there, we know they are sometimes the best and you have no other chance to take him. I think this is the big shift we have. To work with people which are not here for 100%, for 50%, who wants to work part-time, who wants to work for 3 months in a sunny side because it's cloudy at the moment. And I think that's one part which will be very difficult, which will take longer time, that the labor market can give this opportunity. It's infrastructure, it's skills, etc.
Thank you, Andre. Your speech made me remember two interesting moments that during the remote competitions within the first pandemic year in 2020, we received two completely different reactions from the competitors. Those who are probably more extrovert, like using your terminology, were saying like, oh, like this is so sad that I cannot see all of these visitors. I cannot see another competitors. I love this feeling of real competitiveness. I want to see, like somebody else's work to be more motivated, make it, I don't know, faster, more effectively, and so on. And completely different feedback from the more introvert competitor who was saying, oh my gosh, this is so relief. I can just focus on my work, without all of the distractions, without this extra competitiveness. I'm just doing my work. I'm performing much better. And we were like, well, that's interesting. And also, you said about this, when young people are working, not only young people, basically everybody, yeah, but we are in the WorldSkills more usually focus on youth. Anyway, in the old times kind of before pandemic, yeah, and before this kind of fast shift towards this kind of part-time jobs in the different companies, there was this piece of the delegation of your delegation of your management, about self-management skills, I would so to say, to your first boss. When the young people come into the first company, it's usually somebody else who is telling you how you should organize your time, what is appropriate, what is not appropriate, how you expect it to behave, and so on. But when you start to work with the multiple customers at the same time, basically it's up to you to organize your time, your working space, to build your relationships, and so on. So this is not only a challenge for the kind of human directors of the future, but for the young people and for those who train them. Okay, Neil, I know that you are in UK, actually brings a lot of attention to the, definitely to the topic of kind of everybody feeling involved and professional, but how does it feel from the perspective of the labor market? Because UK was in some process as well.
Yes, so a UK perspective is very much pre-COVID, we have traditionally had quite a flexible labour market. So looking at how do we meet the needs, flexible needs of employers as well as employees, providing security, but within a very flexible system. I think a combination of COVID that has affected everybody has brought into sharp relief the workings of our labour market and the focus on which sectors are important. And a layer from, for example, the skilled workers and workers who've kept the economy moving during COVID has been a big focus. But layered on top of that is the triple challenge of which we've already been discussing, which is digital economy and the pace of change in terms of what employers need, how the economy is changing, how digitization is changing how we experience work, but also experience manufacturing, experience service delivery, experience how we're living and how that's changing the jobs market. The second challenge, of course, is climate and thinking about how that is changing, how we think about where we live and where we work, how we travel, how we produce energy, which sort of cars we drive in, that is also creating a lot of, I think, disruption in the labour market and thinking about jobs for the future and thinking about how we make sure the labour market is geared and the skills systems are geared to providing the sorts of skills that industry. But the third point, which is maybe just a British challenge, a UK challenge, is the fact that we've left the European Union. And so there are not just trade challenges between UK and the rest of Europe and the rest of the world, which are now being brought into sharp focus, but that is also having an impact on the labour market in terms of availability of staff who may have traditionally worked in the UK and are no longer here because of different immigration rules. And so we're seeing increasing skill shortages in areas like hospitality, construction and transport. And so all of these things coming together, I think, presents significant challenge in our labour market. And so to your question around how we, the skills system and how we respond to all of these, I think there is a need for the skills system and educators to think about economic challenges, not just today's challenges, but longer term. Think about where the economy is going. How do we lean into those challenges? How do we become, that's the first thing, thinking longer term. The second is, how do we become more responsive in terms of the digital challenges, in terms of training, online and hybrid training? This isn't just for COVID, this is forever in terms of how people experience training. And so in terms of our skills systems, how do we deliver training in a way which is relevant to all people who want training, that's young people or older people? How do we do that in a way which is relevant and cost effective to them? And how do we package up training, as we're doing in the UK now, much more short courses, boot camp style, digital training, very short, sharp interventions to help train people up quickly, so that we're responsive to employers and the economic need and getting people retrained really, really quickly. And I think all of those things are really important. So digitization, being responsive, thinking longer term. But in doing all of that, obviously from a world skills perspective, we've got to think, how do we make sense of all of this for young people? How do we make sense of all of this in terms of career opportunities and use the platforms we have to reach out to young people and talk about the fantastic opportunities that are coming from all of this change? And I think that's something, that we are, very concerned about in the UK and working with our partners to make sure that with the digital opportunities and careers, green opportunities and careers, new types of careers and training that can help them are all seen in a positive way and is all about creating a brighter future and a more positive outlook. So that, and I think the labour market and change within the labour market is a huge, positive role to play in terms of how we deliver on those expectations.
Thank you, Neil. You actually have this absolutely, I think, unique quality of speaking about challenges that it sounds incredibly optimistic and positive. And I'm actually looking forward, almost already to all of these challenges and how we're gonna kind of find and present and so on, and explore different solutions for this, because this is actually, you make it sounds interesting. Okay, Pavel, so as an futurist, as an expert in the field of education, from the perspective of global education futures in your work within the different international community, can you see something that's definitely relevant from the perspective of the labor market transformation, but wasn't mentioned yet?
Mm-hmm. First of all, I want to say hello from St. Petersburg. I'm probably the only person speaking now from St. Petersburg itself. So I'm happy to anticipate the coming event next year. And in terms of what we observe, I think, first of all, there are, let's say, there were expectations for restructuring of labor markets that I think are really happening, and with many other sectors, not only labor market, we see that COVID has been a sort of catalyst of change. So it is reshaping our society and drives in a lot of long time anticipated processes that, of course, include massive digitalization and automation that has been discussed for a very long time. Now it is happening. And what we can see around the globe, including Russia, is that the impact of digitalization and remote work is even larger than it was anticipated. And in the beginning of pandemics, McKinsey forecasted that about 1/3 of jobs in, let's say, city-related and services-related sectors, and most, let's say, industrialized economy will move to remote forever. And it is very evident that it's going to happen. And we are getting used to really a very different modality of work because of that. And I would say the fact that workers will have to rely on themselves and be very responsible in terms of building up their careers and looking for themselves is very evident. So in terms of what it creates, I think that one of long-term impacts that we do not see yet, but it will become a serious problem, is that a lot of highly paid jobs will gradually, let's say, per hour work, payment will go down because of more competitiveness in platforms and the availability of global talent on these platforms, which of course is not a very good news for these talented people who commit a lot of their time to, let's say, prepare themselves for these careers, especially in creative sectors and in many other service sectors. And I see one of huge risks looking ahead in the next 5 years is, first of all, that many of these jobs will become, let's say, much lower paid. People will feel more pressure from and more competitiveness in the job market, and there will be, let's say, higher inequality, and especially because these freelance people and people that think it's fancy to be, let's say, self-employed, begin to recognize that they are much more unprotected in terms of, let's say, this competition and pressure from employers. And I think that the agenda of making, let's say, decent labor conditions for people in this new situations and platforms will be high on our agenda list. And I think this is one of the things we definitely need to discuss in St. Petersburg and other places. Thank you.
Thank you, Pavel. So to save some time, let's move to our second topic, which you and Neil actually already mentioned. It's about the regenerative economy and skills for regenerative economy. I would like to save some time for explaining, just skip this part, explaining why it matters, because I think for the people present here and here in this panel and within the Learning Planet community and the WorldSkills community in general, it's pretty obvious that it's need to be reflected, it's it's need to be developed, it's need to be implemented. It's already happening. And it's super important. From the practical perspective, as a management team of the EuroSkills 2023, right now, we are thinking about how to shape, so to say, kind of, as we usually call it, future skills zone. In this case, it's going to be in Veliki Novgorod, which is a city, kind of 1.5 hours drive from St. Petersburg, when we want to show to the international community, to the European community, how we reflect on the topics of the future skills so far. And in comparison to what was presented to Kazan, in Veliki Novgorod, we're definitely going to bring the specific attention to the green skill subject. So we are developing it right now, and we highly welcome all of the partners to this kind of joint development process. But again, from the perspective of our discussion today, I want to hear your thoughts on this. And Neil, let's start from you. I know that you have done already a lot, and that's it's going to be a super important topic for WorldSkills UK for this year specifically. So please share your thoughts on the green skills.
Sure, thank you, Kate. I think one of the big challenges we're all facing on the green skills agenda is definition of what is a green skill, and are they new skills? Are they adapting existing skills? And I think one of the things that we need to all bear in mind is, as our economies are changing, public policy and government policies are driving a lot of this change in terms of low carbon policies, carbon emission reductions, trading schemes, all sorts of regulatory challenges which are requiring industry to change, and industry is responding, I think, to those challenges. But I think where the challenge for us comes is that I still think that skills and skills players are in catch-up mode still around thinking about how to respond to these. And we're seeing this in the UK, which is why we are in the middle of doing some research which will be published in March, looking at long-term economic need on green skills, what do employers need, what are young people thinking about those career pathways, and where do we as WorldSkills UK fit within that? And combined with that, we have an event in March with employers talking about green careers and green skills pathways. And I think what's coming out of all of that is really what we're seeing in the UK are, there's a big push on renewable energy, for example, and looking at new energy sources, offshore wind, onshore wind, new nuclear. And the challenge then becomes, do we need to develop new skills in those areas, or is it adapting existing skills? So for example, with offshore wind, do we need more high quality welders? So it's an existing skill, but it's just moving that skill from one part of the economy into a new part. And for sure, on any big renewables project, more project managers, so is it about shifting the existing skills into a new sector and really making sure we've got the right skill supply and the quality to be able to attract investment to create jobs? But then if you look at electric vehicles, where we're seeing in the UK significant demand and sales for electric vehicles just over the past 2 years, particularly around London and the southeast of the economy, where the sales is growing. But what we're then seeing is predicted skill shortages in technicians who can repair and maintain electric vehicles. So because the skill set is different from a combustion engine car to a hybrid vehicle to a fully electric vehicle, then the skills need is, do you need to be across all of those types of technologies, or rather than just the new technology? And we're working with our partners on looking at what does this mean for competitions-based training, and how do we lean into that? But also on electric vehicles, the UK government is hoping to attract significant investment to create jobs in gigafactories for the manufacturing of electric cars and trucks. And that then is creating a question of what are the skills needs, and that is it more electronic skills than manufacturing skills. And so there's a lot of debate going on around the skills mix, the skills needs, and definitions. And similarly in construction, where we've got people's homes and offices being refurbished to be more green, to use less energy. And then that is requiring new technologies to be introduced, moving away from carbon energy sources, gas boilers in homes, to air source and ground source heat pumps. And that requires a different skill set from technicians as well, to be able to go into people's homes and be able to work across different technologies. And so we're seeing all of this taking place. And what I think the big challenge for us from the skills system perspective and from a world skills perspective, thinking about competition methodology and thinking about our own curriculum and how we support employers in industry, train young people to meet those future skill needs, is definitions around, is it curriculum innovation we need? Is it specific skills, adapting skills, transferring skills, or brand new skills? And I think we're still in that debate, and certainly we are in the UK, but we are making progress towards trying to not just define better what those future skills are, but actually then how the skills system should respond to those, and what is the role of world skills in the UK in supporting all of those developments.
Thank you, Neil. It looks like we're going to have some really interesting and I think even joint session, this year. I think it's definitely worth arranging some additional discussion, in kind of preparation all of this, because I completely agree with you here. And actually, even in in Russia, we can see that actually energy companies, chemistry companies who work a lot on expert, those who are with us here, and those who want to support us in this process, want to be involved into the reshaping this skill standards, because this company, they actually already there, so they cannot just, I'm using the term fake anything, they cannot just talk about this or use it within the PR campaign and so on. For them, it's already a practice and a huge kind of request for retraining, so they're looking for such type of partners as a world skills, I think we have a great potential here. Thank you so much, and definitely looking forward to your report if it's going to be available after March. Thank you. Andre, so you said that in Switzerland the youth unemployment is not such a big issue. What about the skills for green and regenerative economy? Please unmute yourself.
We could train, or if you have a look back, what COVID made now was like a booster in digitalization. I think with green economy, or what's coming with the whole climate change, will be even the bigger booster. And there will be really a huge change in all skills coming to us, and it will go quite fast within the next 10 years. What's going to happen? Nations will make new rules, new laws. They will invest money. Invest money needs projects, rules needs corrections, especially in the building sector, means orders and means market. So a really great chance to the labor market, because there is coming money focused on this. We have in Switzerland a little bit a different system that we to understand. For example, if somebody by us learns something, it's in general 4 years, but we have some professions which then in the last 2 years go in a specification. So we don't start a complete new skill. We have a basic skill, and then he gets, for example, specified in this direction or the other direction. I think this range will get much bigger. You can be electrician, but you need more information if you go in optimal electricity, in solar technology, but basically you stay electrician. So what we will see is like a market which is open, where skills are demanded. And if we go back to these young people before, there is the big chance, because now as well, maybe traditional skills started to get some value. I'm doing something for the future. I'm doing something for green technology. Even skills which when I was young, I like the story, Neil, with the bicycle. I mean, if I started my apprenticeship as commercial and I would tell to my father, I'm going to get a bike mechanic, he says, stupid man, stop it. There will be no bikes anymore. We have public transport, everybody has a car. And now we have not enough people to look for the electronic bike, because they have to go every year in the service. So there are completely changes as well in skills which we thought they're not existing anymore, and they get even attractive. And I think there we have like basically just like a win-win situation coming to us. The question is, are we fast enough to give this opportunity to the young people? But it's something where we have to be challenged and curious about. and certainly have to look that young people get fast, or the skills fast, get the information from university, new knowledge, to take this in their skills and to bring their really great story up for us and for the future.
Thank you, Andre. First of all, you're still young. So when you're saying when you was young, and the second, when you're saying that's like, are we fast enough? Basically, I think, well, in some form we don't have choice. You know, we might not be, but we have to be. So at least we have to try to reflect and observe this challenging and try to implement it within the training practice, because yeah, it's kind of the part of the deal when you are educator. So Teija, again, in you know, like in the public opinion, Finland is always considered as one of the almost perfect, you know, places in terms of the ecology, how you coexist in harmony with the forests and everything green and everything, you know, wood everywhere and so on and so on. Does it feel the same from the inside, or you also have some challenges, maybe some questions within how to develop skills for the regenerative economy?
Yes, it feels the same when you are inside the bubble, but it's always good to go outside the bubble and see that actually we are doing really great with this one, because when you stay inside the bubble too long, everything seems to be quite boring and normal. But when it comes to green skills and VET in Finland, I would say that the challenge that we have today, and this is actually, I'm now speaking also on behalf of the skills competitions, the challenge is that how to green the existing skills, not to create the new ones, but how to deal with the existing skills, how to make our young people, our teachers, our companies to understand that it needs to be done now. And it's very important that we will have new jobs in the future, but probably they are not completely new. So if you are working as a bus driver today, you can do it after 15 years, but you still need more education for the greener side. So I think the big question we have in Finland and all over the world right now, that how to green existing skills. And also we talk about skills competitions. I think that would be a great place to listen our young people. How would the competitors make the green world see in their own skill? And at the same time, arranging the skills competition, how can we arrange sustainable events with minimum waste? So that kind of thoughts today.
Thank you, Teija. Yeah, because sometimes we are kind of arranging something that for the visitors might look like something incredibly green, because it's literally green, such as forestry or something like this. But when you think how, where actually these flowers were grown originally, and what it was the carbon waste and all of this to bring them to the, to this precise site and so on, it's a completely different story. And I agree with you, in some moment in time, probably it's going to be the right question to our expert community, to our teachers, basically how to incorporate what's going to be the green module within your skill, because they know their technology better, they know their skill better. But in some skills, all of these challenges influence more and some less. Like Neil said, like in transportation, in construction, in manufacturing more, maybe in art or IT less. But in some forms, probably we will need to think how to incorporate this kind of green piece within the existing skills. Completely agree with you. Pavel, the same question to you, like either something in this big agenda of the skills and training for a regenerative economy that wasn't mentioned, but worth exploring within the next 2 years.
Nice job to be in the end and say something that wasn't said by others.
Sorry. And also I wanted to add that based on the virtual reality, it's actually me who is in St. Petersburg, and as you can see in my background, so myself is in St. Petersburg, and you are obviously in some parallel universe, you know, so the digital world, yes, everything is a little bit different.
Okay. Well, first of all, I quite agree with what you say, Katerina, that in some regard, we do not have choice in terms of looking at regenerative skills. So I think there was, let's say, an attempt on behalf of large business in particular to either ignore or to kind of bargain with the situation. And it reminds me about this famous that is known to like psychotherapies. There are stages of acceptance. When there is a sad news, bad news about, for example, a person having a cancer, a person first of all neglects and say it's not true. Then a person tries to negotiate, and in the end there is acceptance. So I think we are now still in the bargaining zone. But we gradually begin to, first of all, grieve, like we start to realize, okay, sad news that we have to change, but it's also good news. I quite agree with what Andrea and others were saying, that it's very optimistic for the new generation, because one of the things is that I mentioned the situation with digital platforms and the fact that digitalization doesn't bring enough justice to let's say talented individuals and teams. But I think exactly with coming of regenerative paradigm, the idea that we have to rebuild our industries, our cities, our transportation systems and energy systems, and most important, we have to rebuild our agriculture. This is a massive task that is going to involve millions and millions of talented people that require incredible, let's say, curiosity and thoughtfulness to invent new ways of doing business, working in a new reality. So coming of regenerative economy is a huge opportunity for the next generation. And most important, that it's also very, let's say, regenerative for them personally, that it gives them hope. They start to realize they're doing something meaningful for the future, for themselves, for new generations. They, so to say, heal what is the bad things that were done in the past by industries that were only focused on, let's say, economic efficiency, but not on other aspects of human and planetary well-being. So I think it's coming of regenerative paradigm is a very good process. It will happen in my mind, for many decades. So we are only in the beginning. And the important thing for us as people working with skills is that there is very little standardization at the moment. There is very little understanding what green skills are, what we have to do, because our colleagues mentioned, for example, very important topics such as let's say new models of transportation, electrical transportation. But what I think is also important, and that has not been mentioned, is that we discovered that during the consideration of future skills for 2020s, that the project we did with EuroSkills a year ago, that green skills are directly connected to the idea of universal well-being. So if you want to take care about the nature, let's say if you want to take care of nature, you need to first of all learn to take care of yourselves, your team, your community, and then that allows you to be much more responsible deeply about what is going on in the world. So I think we have to connect two agendas, the agenda of green skills and regenerative skills for nature, and regeneration of ourselves. Learning to take care of ourselves in our workplace, in our life in general, and so on. It has to be, let's say, the basic element of this professional and life skills that every human being now cultivates. And it is a doorway, in a way, to activate our green skills potential, regenerative skills potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Pavel, for adding this perspective of the universal well-being to our discussion, because I think it's genuinely important. So we are a little bit behind the schedule, so probably 2 topics left. We're going to discuss kind of a little faster, but what's good, that's at least from the surface, it looks like not so bigger topics. So the third one going to be about the Reskilling Cities. So St. Petersburg is a big city. It's a famous city with a huge territory protected by UNESCO. We know that, again, because it's a European competition, skills competition in Europe, we have a lot of incredible, unique cities, but cities get older and older in a good way, of course, it's a history, but at the same time, technologies are developing. And so we need kind of new skills for the, so to say, old cities, beautiful, magnificent cities. Can you please briefly mention some aspect if you are within your country dealing with this request? Maybe it's a specific request from the management teams of the cities. Maybe it's the focus on the urban skills, urban greening and so on, but something separate from the kind of regenerative agenda that we already were discussing. Is it actually a topic itself? Let me bring this way. Should we discuss it in St. Petersburg, or it's actually can be discussed within other stories and it's not so vibrant within your community? And Pavel, I actually wanted to start from you because you was working a lot with the learning cities communities. So can you shape the agenda for us from your perspective?
Well, I think first of all, we absolutely have to make sure that it's going to be part of our conversation, because we started to talk about the paradigm shift in the economy, and the paradigm shift also begins to reprioritize what people think is important in terms of let's say what efficiency means, what productivity means. So during the 20th century, it meant primarily how much value added, economic value added you create. But today we start to realize that, first of all, there are, let's say, multiple effects of economy that directly relate to the society that is placed into. So there are many signs, let's say, for example, leading global corporations signing the statement that they have to include not only profitability as their like report out, but they have to prioritize impact for society as the second outcome. We start to see that ESG agenda comes into play, and everybody feels that it's important to report out based on ESG results. It's important to attract investment or to give investment based on the ESG. But what it means that a business starts to realize that it's part of the larger society, part of larger picture. And we are, I think we are moving into a situation where now our productivity and efficiency will be measured by our holistic well-being. How much value into not only economic, but also human capital, physical health, cultural impact, and so on, we create for our society. But if we look where all this impact is revealed, it's revealed in places where we live. So cities actually is the main place where we can see this holistic impact immediately, whether business is creating that or not. And where skills actually is in my idea is actually the key to transforming our cities. And cities is something where we have this integral, let's say, picture. Are we living in the resilient, in regenerative societies or not? It's very clear on the scale of city because everybody can see it immediately. So in terms of city transformation, I think it's for us as also people who work with skills, it's like the task number one, because we are going to do this transformation, well, partially with large businesses that maybe are situated outside cities, but very significant extent with businesses and economies and jobs that are exactly situated within cities. So what it means for us, partially as skills developers and partially as educators, it means that we have to realign our educational systems to be connected with city needs and to help create, let's say, the priorities that work for long-term resilience of our cities. And I think St. Petersburg is one of cities that on one hand will be affected by problems such as climate change. It's located on the boundary of the sea, so If sea levels rises, it will be one of the cities where we have problems, like same as our colleagues in Finland. So we have to find solutions for addressing challenges of climate crisis. But it means that we have to change city economy. So to finalize, I think resilient cities is a priority, and I think it needs to be discussed, and we have to kind of connect. Probably even what I would suggest for EuroSkills is I think we could think about doing what we call clinics. We can think about, okay, let's take St. Petersburg. Let's think how all these experts coming from all over Europe with all their expertise can help change one single city on its pathway to become resilient. And if we can do it for every city where EuroSkills is hosted, that's, I think, is a very useful impact of the event.
Thank you, Pavel. Andrea, so yeah, is this topic exist in Switzerland?
Kate, no. Switzerland is twice as big as London and has less inhabitants. So I think this answer has to give Neil. We are so small, then I think it's wrong that I say something to this topic.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Yeah, and thank you for your honesty, and thank you for saving some time for us. Neil, yeah, so for UK, you cannot say, I just would not believe you say that the city problems, in connection with the cities do not exist.
Yeah, this is a big issue in the UK, particularly around an agenda we call levelling up, which is about rebalancing the economy from the focus that has traditionally been on London and the Southeast, which is the economic powerhouse of the UK, and actually thinking about how do we rebalance towards cities around the UK. We are at EuroSkills UK, we have a task force at the minute looking at these issues, business leaders and education leaders, which will report in April, which is looking at how do we use the development of high quality skills in different areas to attract investment into cities across the UK, and using the fact that we train to a world-class standard as a way of attracting investment to create new types of jobs and skills in different cities, recognizing that we don't want every city to be the same. So that economic geography and the focus of city leaders has got to be, brought into this debate around what do those cities want to be famous for? They may have in the past been famous for manufacturing, which means they have a traditional skills base. Can they be in future a digital hub or advanced manufacturing hub or a green hub? And we are working with partners across the UK to start to define the role that skills can play and world-class skills can play in helping cities become more attractive to attract investment and create high-quality jobs. And I think to Pavel's point around the role of cities has become somewhere where we go to work. And in lots of UK cities, there is a service economy, servicing people who work in the city, but live outside the city. Now the challenge is, can we live and work inside cities, which cuts down in commuting and creates a better work-life balance and better well-being? I think that is also part of the challenge for city planners to make sure that city economies are thriving economies for places to work, live, visit, and to attract investment to create high quality jobs. Big agenda in the UK, and we are playing a role in looking at the quality and quantity of skills and how that can help drive city economies into a new direction.
Thank you so much. So within this, and this year, Urban Skills Competition, and the next year, EuroSkills, we are counting on you as one of the experts in this field, because definitely, the practice is going to be needed. Teja, the same probably going to be a question to you. Will you answer as an Andrea, that's everything green and small and lovely, and the city's issues are not an issue from the perspective of skills?
That would be my answer, but I first would like to say that I think Neil already cleaned the table, so to say. The problem we had in Finland was that most of the people wanted to move to Helsinki, to big city, so the countryside got quite empty. But now, during the COVID time, where people have realized that they can work and live wherever they want, So that has made a huge change, and that is also a good thing for the small cities, because they can now actually hire real professionals all over Finland, actually all over the world, working online for them. And for me, for example, I like the idea that I can live 6 months during the year on my summer house and 6 months at the city. So it's very flexible. I think that's the situation in Finland right now.
Thank you, Teija. So within the next 5 minutes, dear colleagues, I would ask us to, together with the topic of rethinking education, yes, so our fourth one, in the very short kind of 1.5 minutes summary, tell us your thoughts about basically all of those challenges, what we discussed. What does it mean from the perspective of the reshaping education itself, training itself? What does it mean from the perspective of wet and skills? What topics definitely need to be raised in preparation for the EuroSkills 2023? And of course, as well, practitioners broader in our kind of skills development agenda, maybe something that wasn't mentioned today, but definitely worth exploring right now already, specifically from the perspective of wet and skills and as a summary of what was discussed today. So Andrea, let's start from you as you skipped the previous round.
So I think to keep it really in one short sentence is, we have to look that we make accessible to the practical jobs, to the practical skills, knowledge from university, from academy. We have to bring this together, that these two sides can, let's say, from the practical point of view and the absolute new knowledge together can create something new, can be innovative, and can make this impact we talked about it. I think this is one of the big challenges we're going to have, to bring those two parts together, that they can create even something new.
Thank you, Andrea. Neil, what would be your pickup?
So I think there are three things that we need to think about. First is much more longer term thinking and mapping skills to economic need and where economic trends are going, so that we think long term, not just meeting short term needs. I think the second thing is that we have to think about skills systems as part of a tertiary education system and look at standards that employers and industry need from skills and higher education, and creating more joined up systems that we play a part in, which actually deliver what employers, industry and the economy need going forward. And I think the third thing is where we at WorldSkills can play a role, is thinking about creating or promoting world-class skills economies and cities, and thinking about how the work we do, which is training young people to national and international and world-class standards, plays into our national conversations around attracting talent and attracting investment to create the jobs of the future, whether it's green jobs or digital jobs, and all of the things we've just talked about. I think there is a significant role for WorldSkills to step into this space at a national, European and global level and promote the work that we do as part of the solution to some of the challenges we've been talking about.
Thank you, Neil. Pavel, what would be your pickup here?
I quite strongly agree with Neil about long-term shift. We have to consider the situation long-term. We have to realize that economy right now in front of our eyes is massively rebuilding ourselves. We are envisaging reinvention of the economy for the 21st century on completely new different principles, and we have to think about what helps next generation prepare for the emerging situation, not the situation that used to be in the past. Part of the story that it will be situated in a much broader context of societal change, including transformation of our cities and reprioritization of our economy towards regeneration of human well-being. And so we have to think about education systems and training systems in particular in that context. We have to think about them as problem solvers, so to say, for the society, not only for supplying skills for let's say, existing jobs in the economy. And in that regard, we haven't mentioned this directly, but I think the agenda of learning ecosystems as the idea that we have to recreate our vocational education into a web, you see behind me, a web of partnerships with businesses, cities, NGOs, and so on, that work together to create talent that solves problems and create, let's say, next generation economy and society. That is, I think, our task, and we as WorldSkills can play a lot into that, let's say, task. We have impact to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pavel. And Teja, as our president of WorldSkills Europe, in our journey towards the EuroSkills 2023, and of course, we're going to have a lot of very interesting organizational tasks organizing event in the current pandemic or hopefully post-pandemic condition. But from the perspective of VET and skills and topic, what would be kind of your suggestion, your focus?
I think we need to find a way to create a VET system that is flexible enough to follow these quick changes that are happening in our working life today. And that is very important. And I think it's something we can't do alone in one country. It is something we all need together to do together on a same platform. And then secondly, we haven't talked about web teachers a lot today. So I think one answer also we should talk is the teachers, because modern teacher is more like a trainer than an old-fashioned teacher. And when the teacher is training one student, they both learn actually, and it's not just one-way teaching and learning. And we need to have teachers who are excited to learn more and develop their own work and industry and help their students to learn. Our teachers need to have a pedagogical tools to see how the individual students learn. And I would say that team learning and learning design are today's concept, but that we should also talk in the future more. And from my point of view as a former VET teacher and now being the chair of the board of WorldSkills Europe, skills competitions develops also teachers when they are training their student or working as an expert in a competition. If you send teachers to competition, it gives them more pedagogical tools, good international network, and also new knowledge about their own substance. And I think this would be some kind of answer to start with the teachers, because with the help of the skills competitions, it is very easy to develop our VET system together with the teachers and the students.
Oh, thank you so much, Teja. Thank you, dear colleagues. We are almost on the perfect timing. So thank you so much for this really inspiring discussion. I literally cannot imagine the better way to spend my birthday than with you guys discussing. That's something that really kind of bother us as a practitioners. And of course, we are super looking forward to exploring further all of this topic and to create the practical workshops and the and practices that we can explore and show to the VET practitioners, as Teja said, in EuroSkills competition in St. Petersburg. And we're really looking forward to welcome you all, your team, your experts, stakeholders, everybody who's watching us right now in August 2023 in St. Petersburg. Let's, of course, in this unpredictable world, everything can change, but we are super hopeful that it can happen and we can create something really, really valuable together. Thank you so much. And we will close our session today.
Yes, I just wanted to say that let's congratulate Katerina on her birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.